Regardless of anyone's differing opinion on this game, I cannot deny my feelings for it growing up. Mega Man 2 and 3 were both incredible, iconic games of my childhood. I would play them both repeatedly, and they are what started my Mega Man fandom. Naturally, when Mega Man 4 was released, I got my hands on that title as soon as I could. The Nintendo Power magazine built up an amazing amount of hype. I was pumped, and you can bet that as soon as I unwrapped the packaging of this NES title, I went to town on it. I tore through the game quickly, and I enjoyed it. Of course, that only led to me replaying it many more times. However, something was different this time around. After my initial excitement, which probably did last a couple months, Mega Man 4 was shelved. It was not my default Mega Man game. It probably saw more play than many other titles that I own, but not by much. The same magic just, for some reason, wasn't there. When I recently went to replay this game again, I found myself interested in intellectually analyzing just what is it that made this game different. This is Mega Man 4 for the NES, originally released in 1991. Mega Man 4 is a higher production. Capcom finally realized they had a real winning franchise at hand, and they were ready to pump money into it. The Super Nintendo was coming out at around the same time in Japan, and in order to compete as an NES title, they really had to put their all into this. More people were put onto the development team, and it shows. One thing that stands out is the facelift and the graphics. While you can only do so much with the NES, you can easily see its refinement. This is where my first problem comes in. The art style does look more tight, and perhaps even a little more intricate, but then at the same time, it just feels less expressive. Nothing really matches the eerie feeling of, say, Gemini Man stage or Clash Man stage, the techno feeling of Spark Man stage, or the mechanical feeling of Metal Man stage. I could go on naming many more examples. The stages here just feel so much more synthetic and slightly overproduced. It doesn't really help that the music takes a little hit as well. You can still find a few good tunes, and they're better than the majority of NES themes, but there are just not nearly as many as other Mega Man games. With the music being not quite as good, it's harder to find yourself as drawn into the experience. It also just sort of feels like Mega Man 4's when they started to run out on ideas. Some of the bosses are interesting and cool, but others are just lame. Like Dust Man? Seriously, did we really need him? I do have to give Mega Man 4 credit in that it does have some balls. I think the producers knew that they were starting to rehash some previous ideas, so they do try to take some steps in trying to change things up. Some of the stages have various unique traits. For example, Ringman stage comes in with a total of 4 different mid-bosses. Brightman stage is packed to the brim in difficulty, with various kinds of jumping puzzles with the lights repeatedly going out. This installment in general is also a bit harder. While you can still abuse the energy tanks in the boss fights, it's very easy to accidentally land yourself in an instant death throughout the levels. It's frustrating at times, but I guess it does change things up a bit. The most controversial addition to Mega Man 4 has to be the charge shot. While the charge shot is pretty much synonymous with Mega Man, and when I think of the character I naturally think of him as having it, it is still quite a new thing here. While I appreciate Capcom's effort in creating a more advanced gameplay mechanic, it just is not properly balanced yet. Enemies take more shots this time around, and the progression becomes slower. You ultimately feel less productive and less powerful than you did in the past. Mega Man 4 is still not a bad game. The formula works. The speed of moving around, the momentum in your jump, and the feel of your character is all nearly ideal. It's fun exploring new areas and mastering new enemy patterns. It is a very good side-scrolling platforming video game. It may sound like I'm disappointed in Mega Man 4, but it's really only because I enjoyed Mega Man 2 and 3 so much, which perfectly built upon the groundwork laid out by the original. 4 just feels like a slight letdown to the hardcore fanboy inside. But anyway, as inferred, the gameplay model still holds up today. The game is still playable and entertaining and does not feel held back by its dinosaur hardware even nearly 2 decades later. That is definitely saying a lot. Mega Man 4 is still highly recommended. It's still worth giving a replay to every now and then. Mega Man 4 for the NES receives a 7 out of 10.